The Almanack of Naval Ravikant, by Eric Jorgenson. Introduction. Imagine a young boy, not even 10 years old, moving from the bustling streets of New Delhi to a small apartment in Queens, New York. He doesn't have many friends. He's not confident. His family is in that classic immigrant situation, just trying to survive. His father, a pharmacist in India, now works in a hardware store because his degree isn't recognized. Life is hard. So, this young boy finds his friends not on the playground, but on the shelves of his local library. The library becomes his after-school center, his sanctuary. And his only real companions are books. In those pages, he discovers the greatest thinkers of the last few thousand years, all whispering their secrets to him. He grows up poor, and for a long time, miserable. But he has one unshakable advantage: his mother's unconditional love. As he would later say, if you have nothing in your life but you have at least one person that loves you unconditionally, it'll do wonders for your self-esteem. That young boy was Naval Ravikant. And he would go on to become one of the most respected and successful figures in Silicon Valley, an icon who co-founded AngelList, invested early in giants like Uber and Twitter, and built a personal fortune. But that's not why we're talking about him today. Many people get rich. Very few of them also become happy. And even fewer can explain how they did both in a way that anyone can understand. Naval Ravikant is one of those rare individuals. For over a decade, he has shared his wisdom freely through tweets, podcasts, and interviews. And a man named Eric Jorgenson painstakingly collected all of it, organized it, and gave it to the world as a public service in a book called The Almanack of Naval Ravikant. This isn't just another business book. It's a guide to life's two most important pursuits: building wealth and learning happiness. It's sold millions of copies and has been translated into dozens of languages, not because it offers get-rich-quick schemes, but because it offers something far more valuable: timeless principles for navigating the modern world. Today, we're going to distill the most powerful ideas from this book. My promise to you is this: by the end of our time together, you will have a new framework for thinking about money, a new perspective on happiness, and a clear understanding that both are skills you can learn, not prizes you have to win. You will understand how to get rich without getting lucky, and how to find peace in a world that's designed to make you anxious. So, let's begin this journey and unpack the wisdom of Naval Ravikant. Book summary. Most of us grow up with a simple script for success. Go to school, get good grades, get a good job, and work hard. If you do that, you'll make money, and then, one day, you'll be happy. Naval Ravikant looked at this script and realized it was fundamentally broken. He saw people working 80 hours a week in restaurants, grinding away, but never getting rich. He saw successful executives and lawyers who had plenty of money, but were deeply unhappy. He realized we were all playing a game, but most of us didn't understand the rules. His journey began with a simple, yet profound, shift in understanding. He had to unlearn what society had taught him about money, success, and happiness. He says, "I was born poor and miserable. I'm now pretty well off, and I'm very happy. I worked at those." The first lesson he learned is that most people are chasing the wrong things. They're chasing money or status. But these are just phantoms. Naval draws a critical distinction here. He says, seek wealth, not money or status. This might sound like semantics, but it's the entire foundation of his philosophy. Money, he explains, is just how we transfer time and wealth. It's the social credit we get for creating value. It's an IOU from society. Status is our place in the social hierarchy. It's a dangerous game because it's zero-sum. For you to win, someone else has to lose. Politics, sports, corporate ladders, These are all status games. And playing them, Naval warns, makes you angry and combative, because you're always trying to put someone else down to lift yourself up. Wealth, on the other hand, is the real prize. Wealth is the thing you want. It's the assets that earn for you while you sleep. A factory with robots, a computer program running online, money in the bank that's being reinvested. Wealth is freedom. It's not about buying a yacht, it's about not having to be at a specific place at a specific time, doing something you don't want to do. So the question becomes, how do you build wealth? Not money, not status, but true wealth. And Naval's most famous piece of writing, a tweet storm titled How to Get Rich Without Getting Lucky, lays out the blueprint. He says it's a skill set that anyone can develop. He's confident that if he lost all his money and was dropped on a random street in any English-speaking country, within 5 to 10 years he'd be wealthy again. Not because he would work harder than everyone else, but because he understands the principles. The first principle is that you're not going to get rich by renting out your time. This is the trap almost everyone falls into. Even high-paying jobs like doctors or lawyers are still a form of renting out your time. When you're not working, you're not earning. To gain financial freedom, Naval insists, you must own equity, a piece of a business. It can be a small piece of a public company through stocks, or a large piece of a company you start yourself. Without ownership, you're just a well-paid cog in someone else's machine. Your inputs are directly tied to your outputs. Wealth creation happens when that link is broken. So, how do you get this ownership? How do you create something society will pay you for? Naval says you get rich by giving society something it wants, but does not yet know how to get. At scale. Think about that. Society always wants new things. There was a time when cars were a new technology that made Henry Ford rich. There was a time when smartphones were a new technology that made Steve Jobs and his team rich. Your job is to figure out what that new thing is, something that you are uniquely positioned to provide. And this leads to one of Naval's most powerful concepts, specific knowledge. This is not the kind of knowledge you learn in a classroom. If society can train you to do it, it can train someone else and replace you. If they can replace you, they don't have to pay you much. Specific knowledge, instead, is found by pursuing your genuine curiosity and passion. It's the thing you were doing as a kid or a teenager, almost effortlessly. The thing that felt like play to you, but looked like work to others. Maybe you were obsessed with video games, which means you have an intuitive grasp of game theory. Maybe you love to gossip, which could make you a brilliant journalist. Maybe you were into science fiction, which means you can absorb complex ideas quickly. Naval himself loved to read and tinker with technology. He was good at explaining things. His mother even told him when he was a teenager, "No, you're going to go into business," even though he wanted to be an astrophysicist. She saw his specific knowledge before he did. The beauty of specific knowledge is that it's authentic to you. And this brings us to another of his core mantras: escape competition through authenticity. When you're competing with people, it's because you're copying them. But every human is different. No one can compete with you at being you. Is someone going to create a better Calvin and Hobbes than Bill Watterson? Is someone going to be a better Joe Rogan than Joe Rogan? It's impossible. They're being authentic. When you build something that is an extension of who you are operating in a space where you are the best in the world. But specific knowledge on its own isn't enough. It needs a force multiplier. It needs leverage. "Give me a lever long enough and a place to stand," Archimedes said, "and I will move the earth." Naval says that in the modern world, fortunes require leverage. And there are three main types. The first is labor, which is having other people work for you. This is the oldest form of leverage, and in today's world, It's the messiest and least effective. Managing people is incredibly difficult. The second is capital, which is money. This has been the dominant form of leverage for the last century. People who control large amounts of money, bankers, investors, executives, can amplify the impact of their decisions massively. Warren Buffett is a master of capital leverage. But the third type of leverage is the most interesting, the most democratic, and the one that has created the newest generation of fortunes. It is products with no marginal cost of replication. What does that mean? It means things you can create once that can then be distributed to everyone at almost no additional cost. Books, media, movies, and most powerfully, code. This is permissionless leverage. You don't need anyone's permission to write a blog, record a podcast, or code an app. All you need is a computer. This form of leverage is why we see podcasters like Joe Rogan earning tens of millions a year. It's how the founders of Google, Facebook, and Microsoft built their fortunes. They wrote code that works for them while they sleep. Every great software developer, Naval says, has an army of robots working for them at night. So, the formula starts to become clear. Arm yourself with specific knowledge, accountability, and leverage. Accountability is the third piece of the puzzle. It means taking business risks under your own name. Society rewards you with responsibility, equity, and leverage when you stick your neck out. The captain of a ship is expected to go down with it. That's accountability. It's risky, because you bear the brunt of failure. But it also means you get to take the credit and the equity when things go well. In the modern world, the downside is limited. You won't go to debtor's prison. People forgive failures, as long as you were honest and made a high-integrity effort. So Naval advises taking on more accountability than you might feel comfortable with. Put your name out there. These three things, specific knowledge, leverage, and accountability, work together. But they are guided by one final, crucial skill: judgment. In an age of infinite leverage, judgment is the most important skill. Naval defines wisdom as knowing the long-term consequences of your actions. Judgment is wisdom applied to external problems. Warren Buffett, for example, is paid for his judgment. Nobody asks him how hard he works. They trust his decisions. He might spend a year thinking and one day acting, but that single act can be worth billions because it's so highly leveraged. This is why Naval says to earn with your mind, not your time. Your inputs and your outputs are disconnected. A great software engineer might write a small piece of code in a few hours that creates $500 million in value for their company. 10 other engineers could work 10 times as hard on the wrong thing and create no value at all. The difference wasn't effort. It was judgment. So how do you develop judgment? It's not something you can learn in a business class. In fact, Naval says to avoid business magazines and classes. There's no skill called business. Instead, he recommends studying foundational skills: microeconomics, game theory, psychology, persuasion, ethics, mathematics, and computers. Understand the basics at a fundamental level. He believes the smartest people can explain things to a child. If you can't, you don't really understand it. Reading is a huge part of this. He says, the genuine love for reading itself, when cultivated, is a superpower. He advises to read what you love until you love to read. Don't force yourself to read important books if you find them boring. Start with what captures your curiosity, and it will eventually lead you to the foundational knowledge you need. Once you have this foundation, you have to apply it. And this requires a different kind of mindset. It requires prioritizing and focusing. Naval is ruthless about his time. He says to set an aspirational hourly rate for yourself, and make sure it's absurdly high. Before he had any money, he set his at $5,000 an hour. Then, he acted accordingly. If a problem would save less than that hourly rate, he'd ignore it. If a task could be outsourced for less, he'd outsource it. This forces you to value your time and focus only on the things that truly matter. He says we spend too little time on the three biggest decisions of our lives: where we live, who we're with, and what we do. A decision that can impact you for a decade should be given months, or even years, of thought. Finally, all of this requires patience. There are no get-rich-quick schemes, he warns. Those are just someone else getting rich off you. The returns in life, whether in wealth, relationships, or knowledge, come from compound interest. This requires playing long-term games with long-term people. When you find the right people and the right things to work on, you have to invest deeply and stick with it for decades. This is how you get rich without getting lucky. Of course, luck can help. But Naval argues there are 4 kinds of luck. The first is blind luck, like finding a winning lottery ticket. You can't control that. The second is luck from hustling, stirring the pot, creating opportunities through sheer energy. The third is becoming an expert at spotting luck in your field. A skilled investor sees an opportunity others miss. But the fourth, and most powerful, kind of luck is the kind you create. It's when you build such a unique character, such a unique brand, that luck finds you. He gives an example: if you're the best deep-sea diver in the world, and someone happens to find a sunken treasure ship, their luck becomes your luck. They need you to get the treasure. This kind of luck isn't luck at all. It's destiny. You've built your character in such a way that opportunities seek you out. So, you apply your specific knowledge with leverage, you take accountability, you exercise good judgment, and you are patient. And eventually, Naval says, you will get what you deserve. But then, he adds a fascinating final thought to his wealth-building framework. He says, when you're finally wealthy, you'll realize it wasn't what you were seeking in the first place. But that is for another day. And that's the perfect transition into the second half of his philosophy. Because once you've solved your money problems, you realize there's a much bigger, much harder game to play: the game of happiness. For most of his life, Naval didn't value happiness. If you had asked him 10 years ago to rate his happiness on a scale of 1 to 10, he would have said a 2 or a 3. He was driven, successful, and often miserable. Today, he says he's a 9 out of 10. And he insists that money is only a very small piece of that transformation. The rest came from a profound realization: happiness is not something you find. It's a skill you learn. Just like fitness or nutrition, you can train yourself to be happy. This is perhaps the most important idea in the entire book. We spend so much time trying to change the external world, believing that if we just get that promotion, or that car, or that relationship, then we'll be happy. Naval calls this the fundamental delusion. He shares a story about buying a new car. He knew, intellectually, that the car wouldn't change his life. He knew that the moment it arrived, he'd stop caring about it. And yet, he found himself addicted to the desiring. He was hooked on the idea that this external thing would bring him joy. He realized then that desire is a contract you make with yourself to be unhappy until you get what you want. Think about that for a moment. Every time you desire something, you are creating a deficiency in your own life. You are choosing to be unhappy until you get it. We do this all day long and then wonder why we're so anxious. The first step to learning happiness, then, is to choose your desires carefully. Naval tries not to have more than one big desire in his life at any given time. And he recognizes it as the axis of his suffering. It's the one area he has chosen to be unhappy in, for the sake of achieving a goal. But what about the rest of the time? How do we find happiness in our day-to-day lives? Naval's definition of happiness has evolved over time, but his current belief is that happiness is our default state. It's what's there when you remove the sense that something is missing from your life. When nothing is missing, your mind stops running. It stops regretting the past and planning the future. And in that moment of internal silence, you are content. You are happy. The problem is, our minds are never silent. We have a constant inner monologue, what some call the monkey mind. It's always chattering, judging, desiring, and fearing. Most of our brain, at any given moment, is not in the present. It's living in a fantasy of the future or a memory of the past. And this, Naval argues, is the source of all our unhappiness. So, how do we quiet the monkey mind and learn to be present? The answer isn't to force positive thoughts. He points out that every positive thought contains its negative opposite. To be happy, you must have been sad. To call someone attractive, you must believe someone else is unattractive. It's all duality. Instead of chasing positive thoughts, he seeks the absence of thought. He seeks peace. He says, peace is happiness at rest, and happiness is peace in motion. If you are a peaceful person, anything you do will be a happy activity. This is where habits become critical. Just as you build wealth through good habits, you build happiness through them as well. He suggests a number of practical things you can do to cultivate this inner peace. Meditation is the most obvious one. He sees meditation as intermittent fasting for the mind. It's the art of doing nothing. Just sitting, closing your eyes, and observing your thoughts without judgment. The goal isn't to stop thinking, but to realize how out of control your mind is. When you see your mind for what it is, a mad creature jumping from one thought to another, you begin to separate yourself from it. You realize you are not your thoughts. And in that separation, you find liberation. He also suggests simple physical habits. Get more sunlight. Work out every day, because peace of body leads to peace of mind. Avoid alcohol, sugar, and caffeine to keep your mood stable. He even recommends taking cold showers, not for the physical benefits, but for the mental lesson it teaches. Most of our suffering comes from avoidance. The pain is in the anticipation, not the reality. Another crucial habit is to stop judging. The more you judge, the more you separate yourself from the world. You might get a momentary ego boost from feeling superior to someone, but in the long run, it makes you feel lonely and see negativity everywhere. He says, the world just reflects your own feelings back at you. This idea points to a deeper truth. Our happiness is entirely internal. Reality is neutral. A tree doesn't have a concept of right or wrong. It just is. How we choose to interpret the events of our lives is up to us. This is what he means when he says happiness is a choice. It's not about choosing to feel joy, it's about choosing how you interpret your reality. This can be incredibly difficult, especially when things go wrong. His primary tool for this is acceptance. In any situation, he says, you have three choices. You can change it, you can accept it, or you can leave it. The source of most of our misery comes from not choosing. We sit around wishing we could change a situation, but not acting. Wishing we could leave, but not leaving. And refusing to accept it. That internal struggle is what causes pain. The single word he uses most in his own mind is accept. How do you learn to accept things you can't change? His answer is surprisingly profound: by embracing death. He says that when you fully acknowledge that your time here is a brief, fleeting moment, a blink of a firefly in the night, it brings great meaning to your life. You realize that most of the things you worry about don't matter. You're going to die, and none of it will matter. Your legacy will be dust. Your civilization will be dust. This isn't a pessimistic view. It's a liberating one. If none of it matters in the grand scheme of things, then this life is just a game. And if it's a game, why not play it with joy? Why not interpret everything in the most positive way possible? Every moment you spend being unhappy is a moment of your precious, finite life that you've wasted. You're not doing anyone any favors with your misery. This brings us to one of his most powerful ideas, the single-player game. We are social creatures, obsessed with what others think of us. We play multiplayer games, for status, for money, for social approval. But life, Naval argues, is a single-player game. You're born alone. You die alone. All your memories, all your interpretations, are alone. The only scorecard that matters is the internal one. This is why envy is the enemy of happiness. When you're jealous of someone, you're playing a multiplayer game. He has a brilliant trick for overcoming envy. He says you can't just cherry-pick the parts of someone's life you want, their money, their looks, their success. You have to be willing to take their entire life. Their anxieties, their family, their self-doubt, their entire consciousness. And if you're not willing to do a 100% trade, then there's no point in being jealous. The goal is to find happiness in being you. To get to a place where you don't want to be anyone else. This whole process, of building good habits, of learning to be present, of accepting reality, is about taking responsibility for your own internal state. It's about saving yourself. Naval has a powerful mantra about this. He says, "Doctors won't make you healthy. Nutritionists won't make you slim. Teachers won't make you smart. Gurus won't make you calm. Mentors won't make you rich. Trainers won't make you fit. Ultimately, you have to take responsibility. Save yourself. No one is coming to save you. Not in wealth, and not in happiness. The tools are all there. The knowledge is abundant. But you are the one who has to do the work. You have to choose to build yourself, to grow yourself, and ultimately, to free yourself. Freedom is the ultimate goal. Not freedom to do whatever you want, that's the immature definition. But freedom from anger. Freedom from expectations. Freedom from the uncontrolled chattering of your own mind. That is the journey. It begins with understanding the new rules of wealth creation in the age of leverage. It continues with the realization that happiness is a skill you must cultivate. And it culminates in the quiet confidence that comes from taking full responsibility for your own life, both internal and external. As he puts it, a calm mind, a fit body, and a house full of love. These things cannot be bought. They must be earned. Commentary. As we come to the end of our journey through the Almanack of Naval Ravikant, I want to take a moment to reflect on why these ideas are so powerful, especially right now. We live in a world of unprecedented opportunity. The internet has given us access to leverage that kings and emperors of the past could only dream of. Anyone with a laptop can create and distribute ideas to millions of people. And yet, this same world is filled with anxiety, distraction, and confusion. We have more, but we often feel like less. What makes Naval's philosophy so compelling is that it addresses both sides of this modern paradox. He provides a clear, actionable framework for navigating the world of abundance to build wealth, while also offering a timeless, stoic guide to cultivating internal peace amidst the chaos. The most profound lesson, for me, is the idea that both wealth and happiness are skills. This is an incredibly empowering concept. It means you are not a victim of your circumstances. You are not defined by your genetics or your upbringing. You are the architect of your life, and you can learn to build it well. His ideas force you to take radical ownership. The mantra "save yourself" is a stark but necessary reminder that no one else is responsible for your success or your peace of mind. It's all on you. And while that might sound daunting, it's also the ultimate source of freedom. So, how can you start applying these lessons today? Let's make it incredibly simple. First, on the side of wealth, ask yourself one question. What is my specific knowledge? What is the thing I am genuinely curious about? The thing that feels like play to me? Don't worry about how to monetize it yet. Just identify it. And then, start sharing it. Use the permissionless leverage of the internet. Write a blog, start a podcast, create videos, post on social media. Share what you're learning, and do it under your own name. Take on that accountability. That is the first step on the long road to earning with your mind, not your time. Second, on the side of happiness, pick one habit. Just one. Don't try to change everything at once. Maybe it's meditating for 10 minutes every morning. Maybe it's cutting out sugar from your coffee. Maybe it's simply deciding to get 10 minutes of sunlight every day. Choose one small, sustainable action that moves you toward a state of inner peace, and commit to it. Remember, this is a single-player game. The only person you need to impress is yourself. This book isn't about grand gestures. It's about small, consistent steps, compounded over a lifetime. It's a reminder that the most important battles are not fought in the boardroom or on the battlefield, but in the quiet moments inside our own minds. That was a summary of the Almanack of Naval Ravikant by Eric Jorgenson. We've touched on the core principles today, but I have to be honest with you, a summary can only ever be a map. The real treasure is found when you walk the path yourself. The true magic happens in the quiet moments of reading, when a particular story or a simple phrase lands in a way you didn't expect. This overview is designed to help you decide if this book deserves your time. If anything we've discussed today has sparked something in you, I encourage you to grab a copy. Reading it isn't just about learning. It's an experience that can genuinely rewire the way you see yourself and your place in the world. The link to the book is in the description below. Also, if you found this summary valuable, please consider hitting that subscribe button. We explore a new, life-changing book from the billionaire's bookshelf every week, and I'd love for you to join our community. Let's keep growing together.